all coincidences with real people are random. If they tell you that this is not the case, ignore them. Gotham slept. The gloomy city, full of shadows, seemed to freeze for a moment in anticipation of something. Its narrow alleys, abandoned buildings, and neon signs were the only witnesses to what was happening. In one of the alleys, rarely touched by an ordinary person's foot, laughter echoed. Laughter that didn't resemble the laughter of a happy person. It was a piercing, painful, almost animalistic cackle. It tore the silence apart, making passers-by nervously look around, though they couldn't see the source. In this laughter, pure, unfeigned hatred could be heard. Hatred for the world, for people, and even for oneself. It belonged to the one everyone knew by the name Joker. And tonight he was planning something special. In the basement of an abandoned building, somewhere in the city center, Joker stood at a large table, illuminated by a dim lamp. The table was covered with various torture tool scalpels, saws, knives, pliers, and other items whose purpose could only be guessed. In front of him lay a young man, about 25 years old, bound and gagged. His eyes were wide open in terror. "Well," Hero Joker hissed, wiping his bloody hands on his crimson-red gloves, ready to play a new game. The man tried to resist, writhing under the straps, but they were too tight. Desperation shone in his eyes, but Joker only laughed. Oh, how I love those eyes. Such hope in them. Ha ha ha. Well, let's not delay, shall we? He pulled out a small scalpel from his pocket and, looking the man directly in the eyes, slowly began to cut his cheek, leaving a thin trace on the skin. The man tried to scream, but the gag muffled his cries. Joker's laughter echoed again like an eerie chorus in the empty basement. "This is my favorite moment," he giggled. "When you realize life is just a game, and I'm its main director." Finally, after several minutes of torture, Joker stepped back, savoring his victim's suffering. "You have no idea how much pleasure this gives me, but you don't need to understand. You're just a puppet." Ha 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 ha. Sitting on the table, Joker lit a cigarette and took a deep drag. "You know, I wasn't always like this," he began thoughtfully, not expecting the man to hear him. "Once, I was an ordinary guy. I had a job, a family, plans for the future." He exhaled a cloud of smoke. "But life is cruel, it doesn't forgive the weak. It all started with one bad day, just one day. And what happened? I lost everything. Then I realized the truth: this world is a circus, and I'm its main clown." He took another drag and threw away the cigarette butt. "And you know what's the funniest part? Everyone thinks I'm just a psycho. But they're the insane ones. They keep clinging to their illusion of normalcy, to laws, to order. And I broke free from that. I know what true chaos is." Laughter filled the room again. It seemed the walls of the basement trembled from this laughter. Later that night, Joker was on the other side of the city, watching as his meticulously planned operation was coming to its climax. In the city center, near a giant skyscraper, a bomb had been set up. It was set to go off in just a few minutes. "Oh, how I love fireworks," he muttered to himself, holding the control remote. He couldn't wait for the moment when chaos would reign, when people would run through the streets in panic, screaming in terror, when the city would descend into chaos, and he, Joker, would watch it all from above, like the true king of his ruined empire. He didn't need approval. He didn't need recognition. He just wanted to see order collapse, the system crumble. Because in chaos, he felt alive. "Well, Gotham," he said, pressing the button, "let the show begin." The explosion was deafening. The skyscraper, like a giant, fell to the ground, scattering shards of glass, concrete, and steel around. Alarm signals filled the air. The screams of people echoed. Flames engulfed the surrounding buildings. Joker stood there, enjoying the spectacle. However, his fun was interrupted. The silence and deafening explosions were pierced by another sound, the roar of an engine. A moment later, a figure in a black cape appeared before him, Batman. His eyes blazed with fury. "You," Joker said, unable to hold back his laughter, "you're always right on time, old friend." Batman said nothing. His gaze was grim, filled with pain and hatred. He quickly approached Joker, delivering a powerful blow. Joker collapsed to the ground, blood spilling from his mouth, but he continued to laugh. "Ha ha ha! Come on, Batman," he screamed. "Do it. You want to kill me. You can't. You can't stand it anymore." But Batman stopped. His hands trembled. His fists were clenched so tightly that the knuckles turned white. Slowly, he unclenched them and stepped back. "You won't do it," Joker whispered, rising to his knees. "You'll never do it, because you're just as crazy as I am. Only you hide it behind a hero's mask." Batman froze for a moment, then took a step back. His face was hidden in the shadow of the mask. "I won't become like you," he said quietly. "That's your mistake," Joker laughed. "That's your mistake." Gotham was plunged into chaos. Explosions, panic, destruction, this was all the result of Joker's masterful plan. He stood on the roof of one of the surviving buildings, watching as the flames consumed the city. He didn't care what would happen next. The main thing was chaos had won. But at that moment, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He turned and saw a figure in a black cape approaching him, not Batman, but another person. It was his former assistant, whom he thought was dead. "What?" Joker whispered, losing his balance. The assistant came closer and, without saying a word, plunged a knife into Joker's heart. The laughter froze on his lips. "This is for everything," the assistant said coldly, watching as life left Joker's body. He left Joker to die on the rooftop, watching as the fire continued to devour the city. And in the last second, before darkness completely engulfed his consciousness, Joker heard his own laughter, the echo of which faded into the fire and destruction.